For those who are really OG viewers, you know that my channel was a little bit different before I started doing heavy Demon Slayer content. Yes, I was doing Demon Slayer content, but it was in a different way, a really different way. And now we're doing a little bit of a different type of style of narration and also a different style of editing and so on and so forth. But the only reason why I bring this up is because there's a character by the name of Deku, or Izuku Midoriya, that I absolutely despise, and most of you may not feel that way, but I despise him for one reason and one reason only, is that he doesn't train or try to train up all the way until he gets his quirk from All Might. Now, you might wonder, why does this have anything to do with the title on the screen? How does this have anything to do with what if Tanjiro was an expert swordsman? Well, Tanjiro himself in the story does not have the leisure of knowing that demons are coming, does not know the leisure or does not have the leisure of actually knowing that these demons are going to be a threat to him, his family, his sister, and every single person that ever steps around him. Now, Tanjiro is an innocent kid. He's a very innocent kid. He's a kid that is just living life normally, just normally how this day and age would go. But what if we change that? We plant in his head that demons do exist and that scary creatures are out there waiting around the corner in the darkness to kill you and your entire family. Yes, that is a scary thought and a very scary feat, but this would bring me into a different realm of reality. Tanjiro's father himself decides that he not only will help train his son in the way of swordsmanship, but also allow him to actually train with other swordsmen all across the area near them. Now, this makes it so that Tanjiro learns swordsmanship at a very young age, and we know how strong and capable his father was, even on death's door. So there would be no way that I wouldn't think Tanjiro would come out of this as an absolute expert swordsman. Now, there's people very similar to this in terms of, well, Tengen Uzui, who has trained a massive amount even before learning of concentration breathing and so on. In my books, I think this is the recipe for being one of the greatest demon slayers, which is kind of ironic when Tengen is on the lower kind of half of Hashira. You would think there's no way he's gonna be as weak as some of these other Hashira, because I mean, he grew up in it. He grew up as a trained killer. That's what he was. That's the reason why he could survive via poison for so long. And I think if you implement this recipe within Tanjiro, it is so much different. Tanjiro is a prodigy in his own right, and we've seen that. So if you get him at the very start, from episode 1, and he's an expert swordsman, someone that could utilize the sword in many different ways, maybe not know how to utilize breathing styles just yet, but he is fantastic with a blade. And I'm talking about fantastic with a blade. Now, you may be wondering, where does this go here on out? Well, sorry to say it, Tanjiro is not waiting with his family to take on Muzan. Yes, he knows that demons exist, but helping his family out is his #1 priority, and he would have never thought that Muzan, the king of all demons, would come and kill his entire family, excluding his sister. Now, he would leave, and then he would more or less get whatever he normally would get, selling the charcoal and coming back up the mountain in the next morning. When he would arrive, he would smell blood all over the area and see his entire family laid waste, his entire family dead. Everything he feared, everything he worried about, his family being hurt, his family dying in front of him, his family not being protected by him or his father, well, he now lives in the reality that he feared so much. He would run to grab his sword, grabbing his sword and unsheathing it immediately, looking, maybe the demon is still here, maybe the creature that attacked his family is still here. But there is no creature left over. There is no creature still standing. The creature is gone. But there's a new creature that takes its place, and it's his sister. His sister has been shifted into the land of being a demon, and he would grab her, running away, not knowing that his sister is now an unhinged creature of the night, going to actually bite her brother and try and kill him. But soon after they tumbled down a mountain, he would stabilize himself once again, unsheathing his sword once more as he lines up ready to fight his own sister. But flashes of their life before, flashes before this, run through his head. Sadness would engulf him, and he would hear someone whistling by as Gyu Tomioka comes to strike his sister down. But Tanjiro jumps in front, parrying and slashing the blade away, kicking Tomioka to the side as he slams into a tree. Tomioka knows that this is no normal kid. This kid knows his way around a sword, maybe better than even himself. Tanjiro would go one-on-one with Tomioka, at least for a second, but the speed that Tomioka portrays easily takes away Nezuko and easily shows Tanjiro that there are levels to what he's going at right now. And Tomioka goes through the whole spiel, telling him that his sister is a demon that needs to die. But luckily enough, Tomioka would see that Nezuko proves herself when defending Tanjiro after just losing against Tomioka and his unwavering speed. Now with that said, Tanjiro would go about more or less everything very similar, excluding the fact that his struggles with Urokodaki would just not exist. Urokodaki would be so impressed with the swordsmanship that he would jump into basically teaching Tanjiro concentration breathing, and maybe even concentration breathing constant, trying to teach him advanced ways of using his breathing styles, because he would have way more time to learn breathing styles and techniques because he already mastered so much of the art of swordsmanship. Tanjiro would learn from Urokodaki, learn the concentration breathing, learn water breathing, and even learn all forms that are connected. Now, with all that said, Tanjiro believes that he has now succeeded everything he needs to, and the final test that he needs to go through is slicing the boulder in half, but he's able to do this with ease, with really ease. Now, Tanjiro may or may not see Sabito and Makomo. Maybe they see and feel the need to still help him, but Tanjiro does not need help in this regard, does not need help to train, and Tanjiro's training would be so fruitful for him that his level of skill, power, strength, and speed would be on a totally different plane of existence at this point. When you basically have done 85% of what you need to do to learn to become a demon slayer before you even become a demon slayer, to the degree that Tanjiro in this reality has, well, there's just no way Tanjiro wouldn't pick up on water breathing like an absolute prodigy. And Urokodaki could see that he is in the makings of becoming the next water Hashira, and may even be able to exceed Tomioka quicker than you could possibly imagine, maybe in the next couple months. You never know. This kid, it seems like he's just perfect, a perfect specimen for becoming a demon slayer. I mean, outside of his attachment to another demon by the name of Nezuko. With all that said, he would head out. He would head out and actually step foot in the final selection, but the final selection would be a breeze. He would slay every single demon there, and his swordsmanship would flash absolute greatness in everybody who watches. Everybody who watches the way he moves, the way he slices, the way he cuts, everything. No wasted movement, no actual way that this person exists. Tanjiro does these things perfectly. His slash points are exactly where they need to be. When he aims for the neck, there is no wasted movement in his slashes. He doesn't exert energy the way that he would have if he wasn't as pro as he is, if he wasn't an expert the way he is. He doesn't exert the energy. He doesn't waste the movements. And Tanjiro would exterminate every demon in the final selection. Every last one of them. So much so that some of the demons would even fear for their lives, because there's an image that they're seeing, an image of the one and only Yoriichi, the blood that runs through their veins fears it. The blood that runs through their veins is terrified from it, runs from it. And Tanjiro seems to be the next coming of that. But that's not true. He's just a different type of Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer way more prepared than everybody else. And preparation is the perfect way to look at it. Because Tanjiro would set off. He would get his medal, whatever he needs to get, and leave. After he speaks with Orokodaki for one last time, his Demon Slayer journey would finally begin. But experience as a swordsman and a fighter cannot necessarily prepare you for some of these demons. I mean, we're talking about a swamp demon, someone that can more or less duplicate and teleport and make little portals, and it's a hard feat. And that is what Tanjiro needs. Tanjiro needs to see this. Tanjiro needs to know that blood demon arts and these powers that demons have are otherworldly. That his swordsmanship is such a very basic way of looking at things. That Tanjiro knows that the body of a human is set at such a disadvantage, and once he's comfortable with that idea, quicker than possibly ever, he now knows that the way he strikes and every movement truly matters to the largest extent possible. Now, he would not struggle with the swamp demon. He would not struggle with these demons, but when he does come face to face with Muzan, there is a little bit of him that wants to fight right now. Wants to fight. Yes, the real true swordsman in him wants the battle. The battle that would more or less avenge his family, but the teachings of swordsman and the teaching of his father would be two very different teachings. His father did not teach him to seek the way he truly wants to, not the way most swordsmen would truly teach him to kill, especially in a world like this. Master swordsmen that would teach Tanjiro throughout this time would teach him that he needs to go for the kill as quick as possible, but sometimes there's something deep within you that tells you to not go for it. And that's exactly what happens with Muzan. He knows that he is outclassed. He knows that he is not ready for someone like Muzan, and that's just the reality of it. He is not ready. But luckily enough, he's able to speak with someone like Lere Tameya. Now this conversation is perfect, because this conversation would lead him to learning how to cure his sister, learning how to do what he needs to do to get to the point where they can defeat Muzan, at least eventually. Now, I'm not going to lie, most of this would not change. In this reality, making him an expert swordsman would not change some of these fights, it would just make them easier. From episode 1, if he was an expert swordsman, these fights would be far easier. The fight at Lere Tameya's house, far easier because of his skill and his technique. The fight at the mansion with the drum demon, easier. And he's able to get blood from all of these demons that he needs to get. And even when we're talking about the fight with Rui, it would be easier to an extent. But this is where things get a little bit complicated. Because yes, he's an expert swordsman. Yes, he knows vast amounts of techniques with a sword. But the issue is, these demons, as they level up, well, it becomes harder and harder to actually kill them. Tanjiro may get the slice that he needs through the neck on Rui, but there is going to be a struggle. There always will be. Yes, this version of Tanjiro is a master at using his sword, a master at it. But he's not fighting another swordsman. He's only gaining so much from being this high-level swordsman. And this would have to be my guess in terms of when we're involving someone like Tengen. Tengen is an absolute elite demon slayer. Don't get me wrong, he's strong in his own rights. But you would think someone that trains the way he trained throughout his life, on top of concentration breathing, on top of the breathing styles and sound breathing and so on, he would be stronger. That he would be better. that his technique is flawless and it would give advantage over demons, but that's just not the case all the time. An expert swordsman, yes, in a clash of fist to sword or sword to sword, would have his advantages, but when the demons themselves, like Rui himself, well, they have techniques a little bit different, it becomes an issue. Now, you may be thinking, no way is this guy gonna say this version of Tanjiro can't defeat Rui, because I'd be lying through my teeth if I did tell you I believed he couldn't defeat Rui, because I do think he could. I think he could slice Rui into bits, and that's just because of the level that Rui is at. The level Rui is at the moment, or at this moment, is just a level that isn't strong enough to maintain Tanjiro. And ironically enough, when we talk about another demon, that level will actually help him just enough. And I'll get to that in a second. I don't want to skip over what we need to skip or what we need to talk about. Tanjiro would kill Rui. That would be a determining factor. Now, from here on out, you might think, oh, well, that's Hashira now. I mean, he has entered the realm of Hashira, which he has, for sure. They already have a water Hashira, and not necessarily him killing Rui at this moment kind of stunts his growth in terms of sun breathing. Now, there are a couple arguments you can make. Him being trained by his father a little bit more might lead him to learning sun breathing a little quicker. And I can see that, and him being a master swordsman, maybe he would learn that in a different way, but he still doesn't have that outlet. He still isn't really able to make that connection. But once he gets training with some of the greatest and best Hashira, and on top of that, with some of the people around him, there is no doubt in my mind that his connection to sun breathing will eventually click, because he eventually makes this connection when he is in deep need. And that happened against Rui. This time it did not. Rui wasn't on the high enough level, so that connection isn't going to be made in a place of need, but actually in a place of training. And that's what's going to happen next. So he slays Rui. People eventually would show up, aka Shinobu, Giyu, and also Kanao. And of course, they would go through the whole dilemma of Nezuko. I mean, she's a demon. But eventually everything would be settled, and Nezuko would prove that she is no normal demon. But now the training truly begins, training with Inosuke, Zenitsu, and also Tanjiro, obviously. And once this training begins, this true training, and by the way, he doesn't have to learn concentration breathing constant because he already knows it. He can now rely and try to connect the dots into the art of sun breathing. And once he does, he'll never look back. Like I said, there are perks to being a master or an expert swordsman or a master swordsman. It's basically the same thing. And in battle, there are perks and also limitations. But in terms of learning, it's a massive perk, because once he connects those dots, sun breathing becomes very accessible to him. And the fact that he can now actually learn multiple forms of sun breathing way earlier than before will allow him to be at a very better advantage against Akaza. Let's talk about it. Akaza is a fight after Enmu, and I hate to skip over Enmu because Enmu's cool and all, and like, you know, picture perfect demon, scary, sadistic, all that. But my thing is, there's no way that a better Tanjiro would lose to Enmu. It's really a connection of would a better Tanjiro at this time defeat an Akaza. Now, I did say that being a higher demon benefits you, or an upper moon. It 100% does. There's no question about that. Power is power. But Akaza loves to throw fists, hands. Tanjiro can benefit from this far more than you possibly imagine because of his swordsmanship. He knows how to take on someone that is fighting via fists, hand-to-hand combat, the way of an open palm. He knows. he knows how to fight this, and he benefits from understanding it. Now, with his actual use of sun breathing at this time as well, I mean, we're talking about a Tanjiro that can actually hurt Akaza and hurt him so much that he stops regenerating. That right there is a massive point. Now, can these two, a Tanjiro that's an expert swordsman and a Rengoku, defeat Akaza? I'm not so sure. Akaza was holding back against Rengoku, at least in canon, and we know that this version of Tanjiro is very, very good, but things start to get a little bit minimal once we get to a certain point, and we know there's a lot of moves Akaza can pull out that aren't necessarily just open palm hand-to-hand combat. So it would make it very difficult for Tanjiro to find the killing blow, especially when his time as a demon slayer, not a swordsman, a demon slayer, hasn't been as long as it could be. I mean, experience goes a hell of a long way. So I think Akaza would still run away terrified of what was just in front of him, but luckily Rengoku could live, making it an extra Hashira to actually go on and fight against Muzan in the near future. Now, Entertainment District arc. Does Daki and Gyutaro, that's what I was trying to say, even stand a chance? No, not at all. Because, in my opinion, as well, is that you have Inosuke and Zenitsu taking on Daki. I mean, that's a kind of normal fight that we normally see. Gyutaro cannot take on Tengen and Tanjiro. I mean, we could just scale it. We know that Tengen and Rengoku, in my opinion at least, are on similar levels. I mean, you can make the argument that maybe Rengoku's better, maybe Tengen's better, maybe poison resistant makes Tengen better. That's beyond the point, though, because both a Tanjiro that is far, far better than canon takes on Gyutaro with Tengen, they're gonna die. Or Gyutaro is going to die. Same thing with Daki, and it will be quick and very swift. It wouldn't even really be a super fair fight. And as time goes on, experience continues to grow. It is the same exact thing for the Swordsmith's Village. These demons cannot keep up with someone like Tanjiro, who's now gaining massive amounts of experience. Now, the only thing I can think of that would actually move Tanjiro away from the Swordsmith's Village is that his precise and amazing way of utilizing his sword would allow him to never break his sword. Never break it. But, come on. We all know that that's not a reality when it comes to demons that have skin as hard as rock. So it's gonna break, and he's going to end up at the Swordsmith's Village, and the Swordsmith's Village would be even easier because Tanjiro can actually help Misuri this time around. It won't be as much running as you would think, and Tanjiro would actually hold his own massively and honestly exceed Mitsuri and take a ton of weight off of her back. And this fight would end with literally no casualties, nobody really hurt, and everything seems to be okay to a larger extent. They would have struggles with killing the demon, the very small demon, but still, it would be pretty simple for someone as precise as Tanjiro. And for plot's sake, because I don't want to just say, oh well, Nezuko isn't needed as much, so she's not shown to conquer the sun, and Muzan kind of just waits things out. Nezuko conquers the sun, what would happen? Tanjiro and Gyu's fight with Akaza. How does that go? Experience is key, and I've been saying that all video, and experience for Tanjiro in that regard would make it very, very difficult for Akaza to fight this fight. And Gyu and Tanjiro would clean this up very quickly. Very quickly. But there's also a couple question marks I'm sure you may be having. The Demon Slayer mark. Would Tanjiro awaken it? And I would say 100%. But I also think it would have most likely been against the first fight against Akaza. But it doesn't put him enough ahead to actually defeat Akaza on their first meeting. But like I said, not as much as you would think would change in terms of this regard, just because there's a big slot in between that doesn't necessarily matter. We know the canon Tanjiro takes on Akaza with Giyu and defeats him, but we know that a expert swordsman Tanjiro would easily be able to defeat an Akaza, and being able to establish his way of sun breathing even easier, because the fact that he is so in depth with a sword would lead to a Muzan falling even quicker than normal. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy massive power spike if you allow Tanjiro to learn to be a swordsman way before he learned one when he was in Demon Slayer. I mean, there's a reason why he came off as someone that knew literally nothing, and a basic noob that had to learn all of these things basically in the heat of battle, basically in the worst time possible, in the midst of all these demons trying to kill people. He had to learn, and that's the reason why Demon Slayer actually was somewhat balanced for Tanjiro, and there was a lot of times that he was on his heels and unable to succeed the way he was trying to succeed. Now we kind of know what would happen if Tanjiro was an expert swordsman and had that time to train as such. Now with that said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff, and make sure to show some love. I mean, as always, like I said, comment down below any suggestions you want to see for videos. I have a couple ideas up ahead for this month, but I would love to see what you guys have in the comment section, and also what you think about the video. Okay, that's enough talking for me, because I'm already over the normal time I go, and my editor won't be too happy with me, but I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Peace.